There are moments when words fail, when grief is too fresh, too sharp, too horrifying for our usual ways of speaking. This is one of those moments. I've gone through a range of emotions trying to find the right words to speak about who we are as Jews in this country right now. And where I am tonight is heavily seeped in righteous anger. Last week, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky, two Israeli embassy staff members, were murdered on the steps of the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. They weren't working on a diplomatic post or guarding a political leader. They were attending a Jewish American Heritage Month event, standing outside a museum meant to celebrate Jewish history and resilience. And this tragedy feels especially close to home because Sarah Milgram was the niece of Rabbi Eric Milgram, who was the Rabbi Emeritus at B'nai Shalom in East Brunswick, a respected colleague to so many of us in the local rabbinate. This wasn't just a distant headline. It touched our community. It reached into our extended family, and we mourn with them, with Eric, with his family, with all who knew and loved Sarah and Yaron. Let's let this settle in for a moment. A Jewish museum in the heart of our nation's capital, a place meant to educate, to inspire, to celebrate the contributions and history of American Jews. And outside its doors, two people were gunned down in cold blood just for showing up, for being present in a Jewish space, for being Jewish. Let's be clear. The assailant did not attack an embassy. He didn't target government officials or symbols of statehood. He opened fire on Jews gathering at a Jewish institution. The shooter reportedly shouted "Free Palestine" before pulling the trigger, but shouting that doesn't make someone a freedom fighter. It doesn't place his actions in the context of resistance or justice. It places them in the long, painful history of anti-Semitic terror. Murdering Jews is not liberation, is not activism, it's not resistance, it is hate, and it must be named as such. And yet we live in a time when even saying that feels controversial, when hatred of Jews is rationalized or excused, when people are told to contextualize their outrage, when even those who speak out against anti-Semitism are asked to temper their words, to be careful not to make others uncomfortable with the truth. But the truth should make us uncomfortable because it happened to Sarah and Yaron, because what happened to Sarah and Yaron wasn't just tragic, it was terrifying. It was gutting, and it was deeply anti-Semitic. For many of us, this attack feels like one more heartbreak in a year that has already been heavy with fear and anxiety. We're walking into Jewish spaces already feeling vulnerable. We scan the room, we check the exits, we look over our shoulders and wonder, is it safe to be here? And just this week, the seminary that your clergy went to, Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, was defaced with graffiti on the front doors. This was done to intimidate Jews in Jewish spaces. How horrifying this is, especially because it was only days after the murders of Sarah and Yaron. It brings an extra level of caution to us. This is not the world we want to live in. but it's the world we are living in, and we can't ignore it. Anti-Semitism is not a relic of the past. It is not theoretical. It is not something confined to other continents or other centuries. It is here. It is now. It is visible, viral, and increasingly violent, and it is taking lives. We've seen the signs, swastikas carved into sidewalks and school desks, conspiracies about Jewish control and dual loyalty, repeated by influencers and elected leaders. Protests where anti-Semitic chants are waved off as political slogans, and Jewish students harassed on campuses. Jewish events canceled out of fear, Jewish people being told that their presence is a threat to the safety or comfort of others. 2 years ago, we had our interfaith Thanksgiving service not in a religious location, but New Brunswick PAC, because there was a clergy member in our community who believed that a synagogue was not a safe space for his Christian congregants. We're being told more and more we're not safe to be around. And the rhetoric is leading to violence. And now 2 more names, 2 more lives were taken. The Torah commands us, Zachor, remember. We are a people of memory, but in Judaism, memory is never passive. It is a moral imperative. We don't remember simply to reflect. We remember to act. So what do we do with this grief? What do we do with this fear? We start by telling the truth. And the truth is, this was a vile act of anti-Semitic terror. And anyone who claims to care about human dignity and human rights has a responsibility to name it as such. This should not be hard. This should not be political. This should be the floor, the basic moral clarity required of anyone who says they believe in justice. We cannot allow the murder of Jews to be explained away as part of a political conflict. There is room for deep and complex conversations about the future of Israelis and Palestinians. There is a space to advocate for peace, for justice, for the end to the suffering on all sides, for a ceasefire and a return of the hostages, a call for innocent civilians to not be in the crosshairs of this awful, awful war. And you can say all of that. You can condemn the Netanyahu administration. You can condemn what's going on in the holding back of food. And you can do that while also condemning anti-Semitism and the murdering of Jews. Murder and anti-Semitism is never acceptable, full stop. And this can just be a sermon on how Jews are feeling and fearing without going into a larger world political conflict dialogue. And we must call out the anti-Semitism. And we must say and call it what it is, because when we stay silent, when we downplay or soften the truth, when we allow anti-Semitism to be justified or ignored, it grows. And here's something else we need to say out loud. This violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a climate where anti-Semitism is tolerated, where it's normalized in classrooms and boardrooms and online feeds, where the Jewish community is told that our fear is exaggerated, where our pain is inconvenient, where our grief is often invisible to others. We are not imagining this. We are not overreacting. We are living it. But fear is not the final word. It never has been for our people. We have known exile, persecution, pogroms, and genocide, and still we have built. We have prayed, we have sung, we have lived with joy. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. That's not just a slogan, it's a sacred truth. And it comes with a sacred responsibility to live as Jews, to show up as Jews, to love as Jews, to grieve as Jews, and to demand a world where our children can walk into a synagogue or a museum or a community center and know that they are safe. Our tradition teaches Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh, that all Jews are responsible for one another. That's not just a poetic phrase, it's a mandate. And right now, that responsibility means holding each other in our grief and our rage. It means saying Kaddish. It means comforting the mourners. It means showing up for each other. But it also means raising our voices, demanding better, speaking out against the normalization of hate, whether it comes from the left or the right, from strangers or from people we thought were allies. And it means being proud, unapologetically Jewish, non-defiance of this moment, but as an answer to it. Because every act of Jewish life is an act of resistance to hate. Every song, every prayer, every story, every Shabbat table, every mezuzah on every door, it all matters. It's all holy. So tonight as we remember Sarah and Yaron, we say their names, we honor their memory, we hold their families in our prayers, especially our colleague, Rabbi Eric Milgram, who now bears this grief not only as a Jew and a rabbi, but as an uncle. Zikronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing, but let their memories also be a call to show up, a call to speak out, a call to live fuller, braver, prouder Jewish lives, not despite the hatred we face, but because of it. May we build a world where our Jewish presence is not seen as provocation, but as a blessing. A world where fear doesn't silence us and hate doesn't define us. A world worthy of the values we carry and the God we serve. And may the memories of Sarah and Yaron inspire us not only to mourn, but to act, to build, to love, and to live. Amen.
Amen.